Welcome to Kings of the North in Las Vegas. It's a hallway. It's Doug Lesmerises. It's Bill Landis. Landis, we are here for Big Ten Media Days. How do you feel?
I feel good. It's a hallway, but we've kingsed it up. We've kingsed it up a little bit. He's got hammers behind the banner, by the way. We've really kingsed it up.
I would just like, oh yeah, hammers behind. Oh, why are the hammers hiding? I did not bring the swords. I did bring the foam war hammers, and I did pack this banner and iron it on my bed this morning without catching it on fire. So we are here with producer Mike. We are excited to bring you guys coverage of Big Ten Media Days for the next 3 days in Vegas, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And a reminder, Bill, we dropped something special for the good folks on Monday. Seems like the people who have listened, and it's an audio-only presentation, we're getting some good feedback so far.
We are getting very good feedback on the 25-year winter. Stuff like, wow, I can't believe how well this is produced. But we appreciate anyone who's listened to it already. Episode 1 is available now. Episode 2 will be available on Friday.
So this is an audio series. It's a 5-part series about the North and the South in the 25-year period in modern college football. And again, it's different from this vibe, but it's still us talking. Mm-hmm. So we would invite you guys to try that. But the other thing we did this week, and it's been a big week here, Landis, we're in Vegas. Mike, we showed this Radio Row. We're in a row. Are we the loudest people on the row? This guy's looking at us. I gave this guy my Apple charger, and he's like, why is this guy shouting? And it's like, I already paid you off with an Apple charger, so now I'm going to shout for 3 days. We're on Radio Row. We also did our KOTN poll. Mm-hmm. 54 voters. We like to think of it as the official, unofficial poll of the Big Ten. And that's what we talked about at our houses before we get on the plane.
Yeah, we had that convo back in our home studios. So that'll be the last of our home studios you see this week. Everything else you see the rest of this week will be from here in Las Vegas.
Or here at the pool in Las Vegas.
No promises.
No promises. And Landis got mic flags for us too. Yeah, so we're feeling good. We're looking good. We really appreciate you guys being here. Just make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen to podcasts, here on YouTube. Get subscribed to Kings of the North so you don't miss anything. It's a huge week, 2 parts of the 25-year winter, 3 days of coverage from Vegas. Our KOTN poll, we're going to talk about it right now. Okay, the poll, the KOTN unofficial but official preseason Big Ten poll. It came out on Monday. We're discussing it here. 54 voters from around the Big Ten and the country. This is 20 what I would consider national college football people, because I really wanted to emphasize that this year, Bill, of getting sort of that perspective where people know every team. Because you and I have been beat writers in the past. And then when you are a good beat writer, you know every single thing about your team. But the more you put yourself into covering your team, the more difficult it is to know stuff about other teams, right? And that's like almost a hallmark of being a great beat writer. So I wanted to really, I've been doing these polls for a long time, getting the Big Ten preseason poll. This is the most I ever leaned towards some national people because I wanted that perspective. So 54 voters, 20 national people. But I asked 2 beat writers from every school, from the 18 schools, and 15 of the 18, we got 2 beat writers back. And I got at least 1 from everyone. So that's who, and by the way, Bill, am I saying that our poll is the best? There are at least 3 preseason unofficial Big Ten polls. Am I saying ours is the best? That's not for us to say.
I'll say ours is, yeah, it's the best. Yeah. I'll say
it's for you to say.
It's the best, most comprehensive, yes.
Ours is 54. It's double anybody else, at least.
Yeah.
Big Ten USA today did one that's 10. There's another one that's out there that's half as much as ours. So we have the most people. And the other thing I wanted to talk about very briefly is this.
Oh yeah.
So if you're listening and you're not watching, I had some banners made for us in Vegas, and one of them we're not taking because it says this. Because it says the South can cram it. And why is the South can cram it banner not going live to Vegas, Bill?
Well, I saw them. So we have 2. And I saw this one that says the South can cram it. And I said, that's hilarious. Most of the players we're going to be talking to in Vegas could very well be from the South and perhaps take offense to a banner that says the South can cram it. I just envisioned, like I think I said to you, I envisioned somebody coming over to our table and saying like the South can cram it. My grandmother lives in the South. What are you trying to say about my family?
Yeah.
So I just thought it was better to avoid that altogether if we can. So also, did you position that banner so the crown is sitting on top of your head, or that just happened organically?
I plead the fifth on that. So if you're just listening on a podcast and not watching back, I do have this banner now directly behind me that has a crown on it. It says the South can cram it. It says the Kings of the North, and then at the bottom is a football. I'm not sure this is a permanent spot for this banner. It's pretty big.
They're pretty tall. Yeah. I mean, they're tall. I'm a tall guy. They're over my head.
So, but since it's not going to Vegas, I thought, well, I'll just put it in the room for this part of this show today. So, okay, if people are like, why does Doug have a Cram It banner? Yeah, but I think we've all been there, right? Sometimes you just order your Cram It banner and your Cram It banner is too big. It's like, oh, who hasn't been there?
Mm-hmm.
I really like my Cram It banner. It's a little big. This is our official, unofficial Big Ten preseason rankings. Penn State is predicted to win the Big Ten. Penn State 1, Ohio State 2, Oregon 3, Illinois 4, Michigan 5, Indiana 6, USC 7, Nebraska 8, Iowa 9, Washington 10, Minnesota 11, Wisconsin 12, Michigan State 13, UCLA 14, Rutgers 15, Maryland 16, Northwestern 17, and Purdue 18. Bill, you and I were 2 of the 54 voters here. How did you arrive at your vote? What did you do?
I went through everyone's schedule and did win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. I don't know that that's how I don't think that's how everyone does it. And that takes time. And you also got to make sure, like, okay, I said Wisconsin was going to lose this game 15 minutes ago in my own head. I got to make sure like everything is uniform, right? So it's a little bit of an arduous process, but I think that's the best way to do it, because you can think to yourself, for instance, like I just think Illinois is the 4th best team in the Big Ten, so I'm going to put them 4th. But then, like, the other things that have to happen to get the rest of your rankings to work out the way that you have them listed might lead to a schedule that actually has Illinois 8th. And then, like, what are you supposed to do, right? So I want to be true to what I think is going to happen through the season. So, yeah, I go through every game and assign a winner or a loss and then do it off that. It's a little hard with the tiebreakers, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I just think that's the best way to do it if you have the time to do it.
It's also what I did. And I think and I'm sure that's not what everybody did, and that's fine. Now, the one thing is in the polling system that I use, you can't have ties. So, for instance, I think I had a 5-way tie at one of the spots, and then I just had to determine, okay, well, this is what my record said these teams are going to be, but then I'm gonna sort of within that on my own decide, well, how am I going to put them in order? And then I didn't go through every tiebreaker. Then I was like, well, this is what I think. Did you have a tie at the top when you did your records, or did you have a team that emerged in the?
I did not have a tie at the top. No, I had one team with an unbeaten Big Ten record, and I had one team with one loss, so that was clean. And then I had 3 teams at 7-2 in the Big Ten. That was my first tie.
Okay, oh, that's very interesting. I have a 3-way tie at 8-1 for first place in the Big Ten, which then gets into tiebreakers of, well, who's going to be in the championship game?
Yeah.
So
I wanted to avoid that. I put myself in that position last year when we were doing this. So I will not change my vote to make my life easier, I guess. But I was hoping to avoid that this time around, and I did with the way that things worked out.
So I had 3 teams at 8-1, 1 team at 7-2, and 5 teams at 6-3. So that's jammed up. So this is about the poll, but we'll talk about our own thing a little bit. So what did you have again?
So I had one team at 9-0, one team at 8-1, 3 teams at 7-2, and then I had 3 teams at 6-3, and then I had 3 teams at 5-4. So like I had them just sort of in groups of 3s once I got past the top 2.
Okay, so let's. What am I doing? I don't mean.
I also went from I went from 5-4 to 2-7. Like it was like there's a drop.
No 4-5, no 3-6. Okay.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those too. It's like, again, as you go through it, I do think there's a team, for instance, that I don't think is this bad, but whose record is not good, that I was very surprised by. Right. But as I went through it, I was like, well, that's the record I came up with for that team. And I actually might think they're better than their record. But the thing also, when you go through, Landis, do you pick some upsets?
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think, I mean, did anybody in the SEC last year go through and be like, I'm going to pick Vandy over Alabama? I'm going to pick Kentucky over Ole Miss? Probably not. But I think you have to be aware of, I don't know that it makes sense to just go through and think, I believe this team is better than this team, so they're going to win. There are situations as you're going through this where you pick the lesser team based on stuff happens, based on scheduling, based on who's tired, based on who's on the road, based on who do they play the week before, where you end up picking some things. So anyway, so my three-way tie at the top at 8-1 was Ohio State, Penn State, and Illinois. I have Illinois.
Oh, that's interesting.
I have Illinois at 8-1 in the Big Ten. And this is not us to explain our entire thing. That 8-1 for me is Ohio State beating Penn State in Columbus. So that's Penn State's one loss. I have Illinois losing at Washington, which is Illinois' one loss. And that means I have Ohio State going to Illinois and Illinois winning. Okay. And that is Ohio State's one loss. So I can explain that a little bit more. But so how did you get to who's your 9-0 team?
My 9-0 team is Ohio State. Okay. I have Ohio State losing in the non-conference to Texas and then not losing again the rest of the year. So I have them at 9-0, and Penn State was my team that was 8-1 with its only loss being at Ohio State. And whatever that is, October. So those are my two teams at the top, separated from everybody else. And then I had the next tier of teams that were 7-2 that I had to figure out a tiebreaker, but they weren't like, there was no situation where they were going to find their way into the Big Ten title game. So it's an Ohio State, Penn State rematch in Indianapolis for me. Yeah.
I also, my tiebreaker, as I understand it, the way I went through it, because it was a three-way tie and Penn State doesn't play Illinois, so you can't do the head-to-head. And then I think it's common opponents, but the common opponents, because it was then based on like strength of schedule within the Big Ten. And then I went through because I had done everybody's record, and Illinois had the worst strength of schedule. So I got Ohio State, Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. So let's talk about Penn State. And Mike, we can show this too. This is now different, right? The difference of what your predicted order of finish is, again, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, USC, Nebraska, Iowa, Washington, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan State, UCLA, Rutgers, Maryland, Northwestern, Purdue. That's not the same as who you think is going to win the Big Ten championship game. In our poll, Penn State was picked in the regular season, and Penn State was picked to win the Big Ten championship game. This was close. There were definitely people, Landis, who picked who were opposite, that just who you picked number one in your regular season is not who you picked necessarily in the championship game. Our Big Ten championship game winners, Penn State 30, Ohio State 22, Oregon 2. Big Ten championship game matchups and predicted what's going to happen. Penn State over Ohio State, 23 voters. Ohio State over Penn State, 20 voters. So Landis, if you pick those two teams, that's close, right? That's 23-20. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, that's where I figured we'd land. I was one of those people who had it flipped, who had Ohio State winning the regular season, then Penn State winning the Big Ten championship game. I figured we get a lot of that. I'm slightly surprised that Penn State won both. I thought we'd get more kind of flip-flopping. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Than we actually ended up getting.
Yeah. First place votes in the regular season order was Penn State 35, Ohio State 18, Oregon 1. So Penn State 35 in the regular season, 30 in the championship game. Ohio State 18 in the regular season, 22 in the championship game. So a little bit of a gain there. Again, the overall matchups, Penn State over Ohio State 23, Ohio State over Penn State 20, Penn State over Oregon 4, Penn State over Illinois 2, Penn State over Michigan 1, Ohio State over Oregon 1, Ohio State over Michigan 1, Oregon over Penn State 1, and Oregon over Ohio State 1. So
only Bill, two people total had Illinois in the Big Ten championship? Both losing?
Yes.
Okay.
So again, that's, which I was on the edge of that. Yes. Penn State over Illinois was two people. Going back to, now I wish I would have looked this up. I mean, I've been doing this for, I think, at least 15 years. Is that right? I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I started this at Cleveland.com. The Cleveland.com poll remains, but I started it at Cleveland.com. So we brought it over to KOTN. Penn State's never been picked to win the Big Ten. So, like, the idea that Penn State is here as the predicted champ in the regular season and in the championship game is a gigantic thing for Penn State. What do you think of this, Landis? This is Penn State's opportunity. If you want to regard it as pressure, if you want to regard it as a burden, if you want to regard it as a tip of the cap of this is where this Penn State program is. I don't want to get caught up in the minutia and ignore the fact that Penn State as the preseason Big Ten champion has not happened and is a gigantic deal, I think, for that program, and not a surprise. And it's close, but a reaffirmation of what could happen in State College this year.
Yeah, I'm glad it happened because I think it's right. Like I don't. It's very easy to just get handed a ballot and say, who do you think is going to win the Big Ten, and just throw Ohio State up there and not think twice about it. And I'm not saying like I picked Ohio State to win the regular season title this year. So like more often than not, you're going to be right when you do that. But this to me is like is people rightfully acknowledging just sort of the position that Penn State's in, right? Look, didn't lose a lot, brings a ton back. The schedule is actually somewhat favorable. This is a team that is geared up to do this now in this moment. So they sort of deserve to have these expectations placed upon them. So it is it's surprising, I think, that a program of that stature is sort of in this position for the first time, at least, in the last 30 years or so, since it's joined the Big Ten, especially. So that's a little different to process, but it doesn't mean it's wrong, right? I guess I could see like Ohio State fans bristling at this a little bit because Penn State has struggled to beat Ohio State under James Franklin, but I don't know that that's what this is about necessarily. Like leaning on that sort of that history between the two programs. It's just like assessing the teams and where they're at and who has what back and what the trajectories are and going off of that. So I think that this many people had Penn State winning both the regular season and the Big Ten championship is reflective of the true state of the Big Ten going into 2025.
And that Penn State regular season schedule in the Big Ten, Oregon at home is the first Big Ten game coming off a bye, which is, again, Penn State's two biggest games are the week after their byes. Home against Oregon, at Ohio State. So it could not be a better schedule for Big Ten for Penn State. Oregon at home, at UCLA, Northwestern at home, at Iowa, then another bye, at Ohio State, Indiana home, at Michigan State, Nebraska home, at Rutgers. So there's going to be pushback from like, oh, James Franklin can't win big games, whatever. Like, this is just Indiana's going to be difficult. At Iowa's going to be difficult. I do think.
I think at Iowa is, I think, one of the bigger games of the college football season because I just think it's such a pivot point for Penn State because Iowa City's been a tough spot for Penn State over the years, including Penn State teams that have been ranked highly with like some expectations placed upon them. So there'll be some demons to exercise in that game too.
Penn State will be coming off Northwestern at home, going to that game at Iowa. Iowa will be coming off a road game at Wisconsin before that game. But that is, I think a lot of people, if you're going through the Penn State schedule, you stop there. You stop and think about it. But and then Indiana against, not going to be easy. But it's two defining games. Their non-conference is very easy. It's home against Oregon and it's at Ohio State. And so you think they win the home game and they lose the road game, and that gets them here. You don't really, I think, have to change your perception of what Penn State has been that much. I'm not sure you have to change your perception of Penn State at all to put them number one in the regular season. Right?
Yeah. Or at least to put them in Indianapolis. Yeah.
Or put them in Indianapolis. Because then it's like, if they lose to Ohio State, then somebody else is going to get Ohio State. Is that going to happen? And we'll get to that in a second. And then to win the Big Ten championship, you then change your perception some. Can they go win that game? Whether it's against Ohio State, which is what most predict, whether it's against Oregon, whether it's against Illinois, whether it's against Michigan, on that huge stage with everything on the line, that would then become their two playoff wins last year notwithstanding. I mean, that would be the biggest win to that point in James Franklin's career if they win the Big Ten championship game against a great team, right? Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I mean other than maybe
won it before.
Maybe the 16. They have. Yeah. That was, but also the opponent probably is going to be better than Wisconsin was that year in 16.
It will almost certainly be. And like the way that it beat Ohio State in 2016 was like kind of super funky. And Penn State still had 2 losses that year. So no, it would be. Yeah, it would be. I guess if Penn State beats Ohio State in Columbus this year, I think that would be his best win. And
Yes.
unless they were beating Ohio State again in the Big Ten championship, I don't know that would supersede it. And frankly, even if they did beat Ohio State again in the Big Ten championship, I don't know if that would supersede beating Ohio State in the regular season in Columbus. So that would probably be the one game I would say has the chance to be better.
And again, beating Oregon at home would be a huge deal. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Like Oregon's top 10 team. Like this is like, that would be a humongous win. But again, Penn State at home against teams that aren't Ohio State, they've won some games like that. Right. So I just, the defining thing is if they get to Indy, can they do it? So my point is, if there are people like, show me something, Penn State, before these 54 yahoos pick Penn State, right? Show me something first.
Yeah.
They can be the same program and get to Indy and be 1 or 2 on your ballot.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be at least a little bit different of a program to actually win in Indy, right? They have to take that next step. So that's the thing that you would be anticipating.
Mm-hmm.
I think the middle of the Big Ten is going to be really tough. And going through this, it made me excited about the middle of the Big Ten. And this is just how I picked it, but I think there's a top. And I think you decide whether your top is your top 3 teams, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon. Is it 4? Maybe you throw in Illinois. Is it 5? Is Michigan in there? Maybe it's Michigan instead of Illinois in your opinion. Or maybe is it 6? Do you respect Indiana enough and what they're bringing back? Mm-hmm. But then I think I include Wisconsin in this, which people may not. But I think that middle, to me, and the way that I did it, I have 3 8-1 teams and a 7-2 team in Oregon. So there's a top 4 to me. And then I have a 5-way tie at 6-3. And then I have, I think, a couple 5 and I have a 5-4 team and I have a 4-5 team. So that's that middle. That middle to me, Michigan, Indiana, USC, Nebraska, Iowa, Washington, Minnesota, Wisconsin. That's a good middle. I think that's a bloodbath middle. I'm not sure who's going to emerge from that. And then I think there's a gap to the bottom, which I would start that at Michigan State, UCLA, Rutgers, Maryland, Northwestern, Purdue. Some people, maybe a lot of people, would put Wisconsin in the bottom tier, not in the middle tier. But I'm mostly looking at Minnesota, Washington, Iowa, Nebraska, USC, and then whether you have Michigan, Indiana there or not. I like it, Bill. Like I'm going through, I think there's a lot of, that's where when you're doing the schedule game, who's coming off a bye, who's at home, who's been in a stretch where maybe they're tired, who's in a stretch where maybe they're fresh, they've played some easy teams, I think is really going to matter. But that's where I think you and I have had a lot of depth conversations comparing the Big Ten and the SEC. I like the middle of the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. I really like Indiana this year. It's funny. We continue to hear like who's going to be the next Indiana. It's like, why can't it be Indiana? I think actually we make fun of Lincoln Riley quite a bit. I think USC could be much tougher in the Big Ten this year. Mm-hmm. Nebraska, likewise, Iowa. I don't know. I don't think I'm including Wisconsin personally in that conversation, but I would include all the others you mentioned. And like Washington's like, some got some pretty compelling home games that I think could be tough for some of the teams at the top of the Big Ten. I think any of those teams in the middle, I would say. I would maybe not include Michigan. I would say Illinois, Indiana, USC, Nebraska, Iowa, Washington, Minnesota have a real chance to like shake up the top of the Big Ten. Okay. Not win it, but be good enough on the right day to shake it up.
So acknowledging how good I think that middle's going to be, I think that Ohio State losing as many great veteran players as it did, and we'll get to a couple Ohio State players in a second that we need to talk about, but with a first-year starting quarterback, with a lot of talented guys who aren't young but are inexperienced, I think it will be difficult for them to win 9 straight in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. So if you think they're going to beat Penn State at home, it's like, well, then where do they fall? And I actually think they have a 4-game stretch between their byes that if you respect the middle of the Big Ten, I think is pretty difficult. And it's 3 road games out of 4. Mm-hmm. At Washington, home Minnesota, at Illinois, at Wisconsin. So I looked at that stretch between Ohio State's byes, and I just thought, I think somebody's going to get them. And
I think that's fair. Yeah. I don't disagree with it.
Based on both things. Based on the depth of the middle and based on that this is an Ohio State team with some guys who are going to be starting who have not been through it.
Yeah. I think that we'll have to see how Illinois' season goes, but if Illinois gets through basically like the Duke and the Indiana game on its way to Ohio State and is under, like, Illinois will have Ohio State's attention in a way that, like, I'm not saying Illinois can't win if that's the case, but I actually think it makes it more difficult for them to pull off the upset if they have Ohio State's attention. The one in that group of games that I actually did like stop and think about for a little bit is the first one, of the road game at Washington.
Yep.
Is that early enough in the year for a team that's working in some new defensive pieces with a defensive coordinator who's getting reacclimated to the college game for the first time in whatever it is, 20-ish years, in a tough road environment with a dynamic quarterback, like, you know, good skill, that kind of, like, I think that's the trickiest maybe of those 3 road games. Camp Randall's a tough place to play. I just don't know that Wisconsin has the team to threaten Ohio State. Mm-hmm. But if you're looking at that, I don't think it's unreasonable to say, like, I think Washington and at Illinois can be really tough.
I think the Big Ten is good enough that it's going to be hard to go 9-0. So again, this is one of those. And so when you're doing it, like, theoretically, it's like, I just don't know if anyone's going to go 9-0. Like, I don't. Like, I made a bet last year in the preseason, and Ohio State, if you think Ohio State's going to lose to Texas, they still could be 9-0 and 11-1. But it's like, I don't know. I thought last year, I bet nobody will go undefeated, and one team went undefeated, and Oregon almost lost at Wisconsin, right? So, like, there's, you know, just like, is anyone in the Big Ten going to go undefeated? I'm saying no. And do I think Illinois is, like, better than Ohio State, or is Washington better than Ohio State? That's not really the question when you do this necessarily. So that's how we got through that.
And that's not even mentioning the Michigan game. Like, we're talking about, can Ohio State win 9 games? Like, well, they have to win the game they haven't won in 4 years.
and we don't. I mean, it's like we don't have to. We're not going to do 20 minutes on that game in July. But obviously, both you and I have Ohio State beating Michigan, which is not like. I mean, that's not a slant. That's like, I don't know. They're going to lose 5 in a row. That would seem kind of crazy. Right. But a year ago, you've been like, what's Ohio State going to do? Lose 4 in a row? It's like, that'd be kind of crazy. It's like, yeah, no, they are going to lose 4 in a row to Michigan. Mm-hmm. So, and I think this is good Michigan. Michigan 5th. Does that seem right to you? Michigan 5th.
Yeah, it seems right to me. I had Michigan higher. I had Michigan 1 spot higher. So yes, that seems right to me. We did playoff conversation a couple weeks ago, and I held back on Michigan a little bit because I was sort of unsure of what was going to shake out with the NCAA stuff. And I guess I'm still uncertain of that, but I tried to not let that rule the day here as I figured out how I thought Michigan was going to fare in the Big Ten. So yeah, I think Michigan certainly in the top 5. I know some people had them going to Indianapolis. I'm not quite there with Michigan, but I think Michigan's going to be in the playoff conversation for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Anything else that jumps out with the way these consensus rankings of our 54 voters went that it was quite different from what you did?
The 2 biggest differences for me, again, like, just playing the schedule game, I had Nebraska higher. I had Nebraska 5th just because, like, I had them losing to Michigan and I had them losing at Penn State and winning the rest of the games. Now there's like, that was them winning all their rivalry games. So, like, I'm not saying that'll be easy. So I had Nebraska a little higher. I had Indiana lower. I have actually Indiana finishing 8-4. You have Indiana winning 8 Big Ten games. I have Illinois winning 8 games total. So
I have Indiana 8-4, 5-4.
So I'm talking about Illinois. I misspoke.
Oh, you
I have Illinois 8-4.
Oh, I have Illinois 11-1. Okay, we're gonna have some very interesting Illinois conversations going into the year. I have Indiana 5-4 in the Big Ten, which again is just, they play some tough games and they won some tough games last year, and maybe the worm turns a little bit. I do think that's the hard thing about this, Landis. I think Indiana on the field could be a very similar team to last year's Indiana and lose 3 more games than they did last year. Like, that's just the way things work. I
think they definitely could. I have Indiana with 3 losses, obviously all in the Big Ten, because they're not going to lose a non-conference game against that schedule. But it's not like it's a somewhat substantially more difficult Big Ten slate than last year's. But even if you give them an extra 2 or 3 losses, it's still a team that wins 8 games.
Right. Okay. So, and the other team that was weird, and again, this is just schedule game. And when you do this, when you think a lot of teams are going to be good, what often happens is somebody just takes the brunt. I have Iowa at 3-6 in the Big Ten. And that is not reflective of like how good I think Iowa is. It is reflective of like they play a lot of like games against the middle. They play USC, they play Nebraska, they play Minnesota, but they also have to play Oregon. They also have to play Penn State. They also have to, like if you don't think they're going to beat Penn State, and just like I don't really have them losing any game that I find to be outrageous, but I went 3-6, which surprised me.
Yeah,
someone's got to lose.
Someone has to lose. That for me, that was Wisconsin for me.
Okay,
because I think Wisconsin's roster is in a better spot. It's probably the best spot it's been in since Luke Fickell got there. But I have them going 2-7 in Big Ten, just and like losing the last 6 games of the year. So, which if that happens, they're probably gonna have a new head coach. Yeah, someone had to take the losses. So like that was less so Iowa for me, more so Wisconsin.
Yeah. Okay. Are you good?
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
It's like, we can't cover everything. And by the way, we know that this came out on Monday and we did not have a show on Monday, but Bill, we're just here to serve the people. This is less about creating content for us and more about serving the people. We want a good, comprehensive preseason Big Ten poll, and we're happy to do it because the Big Ten hasn't done it for 15 years. So there you have it. 54 voters.
Yeah.
They abdicated their responsibility.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. When we come back, we'll talk about some other things that happened in the voting, and we'll do that next on Kings of the North. Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis. Bill, we put out a project on Monday.
We did. Yeah. The 25-year winter is now available.
The 25-year winter.
Your listening consumption.
Yeah. So it's a 5-part podcast series. It arrived Monday in your podcast feed. It arrived on YouTube. It is an audio-only presentation, but then you can listen to it on YouTube where you normally watch Kings of the North or wherever. It's just in our feed. So if you are consuming this, wherever you are consuming this, you can consume the 25-year winter. Episode 1 dropped on Monday. Episode 2 will drop on Friday. 2 more episodes next week, and then part 5 will be the following week. And Bill, it is a look at the 25-year period where the Big Ten and the North fell short and only won 2 national championships between 1998 and 2022. As the SEC and the South took over college football, and we look at how that happened and why it happened, right? We're trying to figure out sort of the causes of it, and we've broken it down. Players, coaches, and attitudes are 3 of the episodes. And then in the end, we'll try to maybe state why we think that era is over. We do believe that era is over.
We believe that era is over. I think we'll lay out some pretty compelling cases why, the most obvious of which being that the Big Ten has won the last 2 national championships, and the last 2 national championship games have included only teams from the North. So yeah, I said this before, like it was like sort of illuminating to go through the reasons why that happened, relitigating some of it, approaching some of it from different angles. And I guess the other thing I would say is for people who are used to the format we give you, like live twice a week and then every day during the season, this is a little different. It's scripted, it's narrated. There's like sound clips and stuff in there. Obviously it's audio only, so it's a little bit of a different vibe from the typical KOTN show, but we think you'll like it either way.
Tell the people one of the reviews that you were sent by somebody who listened to the first episode.
Yeah, a friend of mine texted me on Monday morning and said, I like the show. It's weird listening to non-manic Doug.
What are they talking about? What do they even mean by that? That's a ridiculous thing to say. Would bring your friend in here and I will get my... Yeah. I don't do that as much.
You don't really do it at all. Yeah, there's not much of it at all.
Stately.
Yeah.
Stately. I'm like a man. I'm 51. Okay. 25-year winter. We appreciate you guys trying it out. It's different than this, but if you're here and you like this, I mean, I think you'll like that. It's just me and Bill
Yes.
talking.
Mhm.
And we researched it. We wrote it. It's us narrating it. There's some clips in there. There's some audio clips from other things, but it's narration. And then it's also us chopping it up in between.
Mhm.
So you get a little bit of this magic byplay that makes
That's
KOTN
right.
what it is.
That's right.
Magic. We also asked our 54 voters how many Big Ten teams will make the playoff. 2 or fewer, 3, 4, 5 or more. 65% of the voters said 4. 35% of the voters said 3. None said 2 or fewer. None said 5 or more, but one almost did. Talk about manic. One almost did. Because I will tell you, with my predicted stuff, 8-1 in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Penn State, and Illinois in easy. Oregon 7-2 in the Big Ten, 10-2 overall in. And then I have 5 teams at 6-3 in the Big Ten, and a bunch of them 9-3 overall. I have Michigan in there. I have Washington in there. Who else do I have? I'll tell you my 6-3 teams. Nebraska 6-3, 9-3. Minnesota 6-3, 9-3. Michigan 6-3, 9-3. Washington 6-3, 9-3. USC 6-3, 8-4. So not them. But Washington, Michigan, Minnesota, and Nebraska all at 9-3. I think the best of them, and I didn't make myself decide who I think the best playoff candidate of those would be. But I think the best of them is a playoff candidate. If the 5th best Big Ten team is 9-3, depending how things break down, and the 9-3 teams in the SEC didn't get in last year, but depending how things that break down, I think they're a candidate. Like that's a Michigan win over Oklahoma. Now we don't know what Oklahoma is going to be, right? But again, like if that's a Washington win over an Illinois team that's in the playoff at 11-1, right? Like that's the kind of thing, Landis. I think it's possible, but I didn't want to be like, ooh, who's the one person who voted him to get 5 in? Oh, is it the guy who wears the crown every day? Is it that guy? Yeah, it's that guy. He thinks 7 Big Ten teams are getting. So I didn't want to be that guy. But I actually do think will be a discussion point at the end of the year for a 5th.
I think it could be. When we last did our playoff projections, I had 3 Big Ten teams in. I stuck with that this time around, but as I went through it, I left it like more open to the idea of the Big Ten getting 4 again, or perhaps even getting 5. The 2 teams that were kind of lingering there on the edge of it were Michigan and Nebraska for me, as I went through all my schedules. So I am somewhat surprised that high of a percentage, 65%, said 4, because I would, especially when you bake in the added national perspective that we had with this, because I sort of assumed that people would look at what happened last year when the Big Ten got 4 and the SEC got 3 and just kind of like flip it in their minds and say the Big Ten will get 3 this year and the SEC will get 4. And maybe the SEC 9-3 teams might get a little more benefit of the doubt this time around than they did last year. I'm glad they didn't think that way, but I'm surprised that they ended up at like 65% getting 4 in is pretty strong, I think, based off of how people are thinking of the Big Ten going into the season.
Because again, just like as a reminder, people know this. And this is why like getting 5 is like very, 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 very difficult. If you think Notre Dame's going to be good, and you and I both think Notre Dame's going to be good, so Notre Dame's a spot and the group of 5's a spot. So that's 10 that's 2 of the 12. There's only 10 spots left. And then you have to have the champs from the Big 12 and the ACC. So that's 8 spots left. So then it's like now you're down to 4-4, right? And if you think the Big 10 could even get 5, now it's like 5 Big 10, 3 SEC, and you're only like that's only 1 because the ACC got 2 last year. Like, are you sure? I don't know. I think the Big 12 absolutely could have 2 worthy candidates. The ACC, I don't know. So anyway, 5 is a little nuts. I didn't go there. I definitely voted 4. You voted 3 Big Ten teams. You voted 3, but you're more open to 4 than maybe you expected.
Yes.
Okay. We did preseason player of the year votes. Jeremiah Smith is the offensive preseason player of the year in the Big Ten. It is an overwhelming win for the Ohio State player, the receiver, the sophomore receiver. He got 39 of the 50 first place votes. Drew Aller, the Penn State quarterback, was second. He got 10 first place votes. Nick Singleton, the Penn State running back, was third. He got 1 first place vote. 4 of our voters did not vote in the Player of the Year voting because I didn't force that on people if you didn't feel like you were in a position to just do that. So there's 50 voters for the preseason Player of the Year. Jeremiah Smith, 39 first place. Drew Aller, 10. Nick Singleton, 1. They're 1, 2, 3. Fourth, Mekhi Hughes, the Tulane transfer, who's the running back for Oregon now. And fifth, Fernando Mendoza, the Indiana quarterback. Landis, what do you think of this top 5?
Certainly not surprising that Jeremiah Smith, is at the top with Drew Aller. I was super curious to see how it kind of fell into place after that. I think this makes sense. It's not my ballot was pretty different once he got past Jeremiah Smith. I'm glad people realize how much of an impact transfer Fernando Mendoza could be. So no, I think there's probably a group of 8 or so, or maybe even 10 that I think could make sense to be in the top 5. So this is okay with me. I didn't think anything here was egregious.
Who was your top 3? So what I asked everybody is vote 1, 2, 3, and it's like a Heisman ballot: 3 points for first place, 2 points for second place, and 1 point for third place. As I added this up, what was your actual top 3?
So I had Jeremiah Smith first, like a lot of other people did. I had Trevor Pena second, the receiver who transferred from Syracuse.
You.
Yeah.
That was you. Oh, I'm so interested by that.
So I just think our pal Ari Wasserman, I heard him describe Trevor Pena in a way that I think is interesting and pretty spot on. He called him an innings eater, which is just that, like, when you need to get the ball moving, and last year that was Tyler Warren for Penn State, you throw the ball to the guy who's closest to the quarterback, and that's more often than not going to be Trevor Pena playing out of the slot for Penn State. I just think he's going to be super productive, and if Penn State's offense takes the next step that I think it needs to take if it's going to win the Big Ten and going to make the playoff and going to contend for a national championship, the guy that's going to unlock a lot of that is going to be Trevor Pena. So I think if you can combine like that narrative with what I'm expecting to be pretty high level production, that's going to catch a lot of people's attention. So I had him second. And then third for me was Jonah Coleman, the running back from Washington. He was 8th in the conference last year in yards from scrimmage, kind of doing it by himself. And I think like their offensive line is better. The quarterback he's going to share the backfield with is more dynamic. Now you could say he's going to cut into Coleman's rushing production. I guess that's possible, but I actually think he'll just open up more for Jonah Coleman because Damon Williams is such a good runner. And I just think that offense generally is going to be more just sort of competent in a way that perhaps make Jonah Coleman even more productive than he was last year, when he still found a way to be one of the more productive players in the Big Ten on an offense that wasn't very good.
Okay. My top 3 was Jeremiah Smith, 1, Nick Singleton, the Penn State running back, 2. And do you want to guess who I voted third?
Darius Taylor.
Denzel Boston, Washington receiver,
Okay.
my guy, who I really think might be the second best receiver in the Big Ten this year, because I think like returning production, I think he's there with like Elijah Surratt, and I think the quarterback play will be a little more dynamic and explosive for Washington. And Denzel Boston was pretty darn good last year with what I think was competent quarterback play from Will Rogers, but you expect more from Damon Williams. So that was my top 3. You and I did not vote for Drew Aller. Here's why I didn't put Drew Aller in my top 3. I think Drew Aller is going to be good. I'm not sure that I believe that by the end of the year, Drew Aller will be the best quarterback in the Big Ten. Yeah, but how could you put somebody ahead of him? How could you put a quarterback ahead of him now? So Luke Altmaier, Illinois, you could. Fernando Mendoza, Indiana, you could. But I didn't want to do that. And so I just didn't go to quarterback, because I sort of thought, I think if I was going to vote for a quarterback, it would be Drew Aller. But there's enough other skill talent in the Big Ten that I'm going to go these other guys. Like, how did you think about your quarterback voting?
Similarly, I just wasn't sure that I actually considered voting for Mendoza. I didn't really consider voting for Aller, which I know might sound crazy that I'd even consider him. I just don't know, unless he's going to run a lot more and maybe get some rushing production and score some rushing touchdowns. I don't know that he's going to like have the just sort of compilation of stats that would put him at the top of the quarterback list. Like, we got to see what Julian's saying and Dante Moore. And then, like, I think Mendoza's interesting. I think Damon Williams is interesting. It's just they're good quarterbacks in the Big Ten. So it's going to be stiff competition.
Yeah. And like, it's not a shot, it's just
no
deal.
Yeah.
So by point total, again, 3-2-1. You voted for a top 3, 3-2-1 on the points total. Jeremiah Smith had 137 points. Drew Aller, 77. So clearly Jeremiah Smith. And then another drop. Nick Singleton had 40. And then a huge drop. So they were clearly the top 3. Mekhi Hughes, 14 points, which is like a handful of votes, frankly.
Yeah.
And 50 people voting. And he finished 4th. Fernando Mendoza, 7 points. That's like 7 third-place votes. Or whatever it was for him. I mean, I guess I could tell you exactly what it is because I did add it up myself. He got 2 second-place votes and 3 third-place votes, and he finished 5th. So 7 points for him. Luke Altmaier, 6th with 5 points. Julian Sand, the Ohio State quarterback, 7th with 4 points. Then a tie at 8. Elijah Surratt, the Indiana receiver, Darius Taylor, the Minnesota running back, each got 3 points. Then another tie, USC's Jacoby Lane got 2. Jonah Coleman from Washington got 2. Trevor Pena got 2, which is your second-place vote. That's all the Trevor Pena points.
That's
and
surprising.
Then a single third-place vote, Dylan Raiola, Nico Iamaleava, Denzel Boston, and Damon Williams Jr. So 16 guys got votes for the Offensive Player of the Year. Any other? And again, it's 3's not a lot to vote for. No offensive lineman got votes. Are you offended by that? Did you think about any offensive linemen?
I considered Jennings Dunker. He might have been the only one. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think he was the only one I considered. Yeah.
He's probably the best, maybe the best returning lineman. And then it's like, are you going to vote for Isaiah World as a
I wasn't going to
tackle to Oregon? It feels weird.
I wasn't going to vote for a transfer offensive lineman. No, I'm trying to think of guys who weren't named. Like Max Clare, maybe transferring from Purdue to Ohio State. I could see that. People think he's going to be a major part of that offense. Carnell Tate, even in Ohio State's offense. If anybody wanted to take a swing at some of the young Oregon receivers, maybe I think could have worked.
No Oregon. I mean, no Oregon swings. If you're going to vote for an Oregon guy, it was Mekhi Hughes, but no swings on DeCorian Moore, no swings on Dante Moore at quarterback, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. So no, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
So there's 16 guys that got votes. Defensive Player of the Year, also overwhelming, also for an Ohio State player. It's Caleb Downs, the safety, who was again a runaway winner. Caleb Downs won. Denied Dennis Sutton on the defensive line for Penn State is 2. Mateo Uiagalelei, edge rusher from Oregon, is 3. Dylan Thieneman, the safety transfer from Purdue to Oregon, is 4. And Mikhail Kamara on the defensive line for Indiana is 5. Landis, what do you think of this top 5?
I will say, if I could combine the offensive and defensive player of the year, I'm a little surprised that Caleb Downs was a more convincing winner than Jeremiah Smith was. Not to say both of them are deserving. I am likewise a little surprised that Denied Dennis Sutton is 2nd. And I am borderline shocked that Coy Parrish isn't in the top 5.
So I'll run down the point total here. Caleb Downs got 43 first place votes. There wasn't a number 2 contender defensively as strong as Drew Aller. That I think is why that it's a quarterback of a team that's projected to win the Big Ten. That took more votes away from Jeremiah Smith. There wasn't a consensus sort of like number 2 guy to the same degree.
Yeah.
So sense. Caleb Downs, 43 first place votes. Denied Dennis Sutton, 2 first place votes. Mateo Uiagalelei, 2. Mikhail Kamara, 1. And Coy Parrish, who finished 6th, 1. And Xavier Scott, who finished 8th, 1. The defensive back from Illinois. So those were the first place votes. I'll run through the overall point totals very quickly. Caleb Downs, again, overwhelming, 140 points. Denied Dennis Sutton, 2nd, 34 points. That's a huge drop. Close to 3rd, Mateo Uiagalelei, 31. Dylan Thieneman, 4th, got 22. No first place votes for him. Mikhail Kamara, the 1 first place vote, he got 20. Coy Parrish, the Minnesota safety, coming off a great freshman year, was 6th. He got 16 votes, so pretty close to getting in the top 5. Gabe Akis from Illinois, edge rusher, got 7 points, so like a clear top 6. 16 points to 7 is a pretty big drop. Xavier Scott from Illinois got 6 points, as did Zane Durant on the defensive line for Penn State. 4 points for Jayshawn Barham, the Michigan linebacker. He was 10th. 11th was Derek Moore, the Michigan edge rusher. He got 3 points. Bryce Betcher, Oregon linebacker. Sonny Styles, Ohio State linebacker. Aiden Fisher, Indiana linebacker, all got 2 points, as did D'Angelo Pons, the Indiana cornerback. They were all tied for 12th. And then single points for Rayshawn Benny, 1 third-place vote on the Michigan defensive line. Ernest Hausman, Michigan linebacker, 1 point. And Kamari Ramsey from USC, 1 point. So 18 players got votes in our Defensive Player of the Year voting. But like a clear winner and then a pretty clear like top 6 overall. Coy Parrish just missed making it there. Any surprises? You're mad about Coy Parrish. You think he should have gotten more points. He didn't start until like a third of the way into the season last year and then was like the highest defensive rated player in the Big Ten by PFF.
So I was the first place vote for Coy Parrish. I was really torn on Downs and Parrish. And like Caleb Downs is great. He's in the conversation for best overall player in the country, I think. I just kind of think Coy Parrish is also. I think Coy Parrish is sort of he's where Caleb Downs was, I think, like kind of coming off of his freshman year. The difference is that Caleb Downs was a starter from day one at Alabama, and Coy Parrish wasn't a starter from day one at Minnesota. He didn't play defense in the first game. He really didn't start getting like a full load of defensive snaps until the 6th game, and he only started the last 3 games. But if you sort of, and this is probably maybe something I shouldn't have done, but I kind of looked at what Caleb Downs did to the totality of last season in 16 games and what Coy Parrish did in this season. And Coy Parrish was like halfway to Caleb Downs' production, but he played half the snaps. So I just think they're very similar players who are going to have similar impacts on their defenses this year. And I think emerge as the 2 best defensive players in the conference. Safety is competitive. Like there's these 2, there's Thieneman, there's Kamari Ramsey, all very good safeties in the Big Ten. But I think Downs and Parrish are different. And so I guess I maybe wanted to like mix it up a little bit too. So that's why I put Parrish first or Downs second. I can go either way. Downs 1, Parrish 2, Parrish 1, Downs 2. I just think those are the 2 right choices for the top 2 spots.
Who'd you have third?
I actually had Rayshawn Benny third. I went off the board a little bit there. I picked a Michigan defensive tackle, buying into a little bit of the talk about him in the offseason about how he's just sort of been waiting in the wings and he's ready to break out this year. So I kind of bet on that happening.
I had Caleb Downs first. I had Xavier Scott from Illinois second.
That's a good vote. I like that vote.
And I had Parrish third. So I went all secondary. I just think it's when you get to some of the guys who are going to get off the passer, get after the passer, I think like trying to differentiate between Uiagalelei and Dennis Sutton and Mikal Kamara, I had a difficult time picking between them. Whereas I thought Downs and Scott laid it down last year. I mean, Xavier Scott's a first-team All-Big Ten player last year. Like Xavier Scott, I think is as good as Gabe Akis is. I think Xavier Scott is kind of the engine of that whole Illinois thing. And if I have Illinois going 8-1 and making the playoff, I think Xavier Scott to me will be the best player on a playoff team. And then Parrish, I'm with you on the Parrish leap and what he laid down last year as not a full-time starter the entire year. So we're very similar there. Those are our votes. That's our poll. 25-year winter. Catch it in your KOTN feeds. Coverage from Vegas all week. Coverage from Vegas all week. Coverage from Vegas all week. We are normally in the offseason a Monday and Wednesday show. That is not what we are going to be this week. We are going to be a bring you a bunch of stuff show. So we will have things from Vegas Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday will be episode 2 of the 25-year winter. So Landis, like strap in, it's here. And we're glad that this KOTN audience is along for the ride with us.
Yeah, very much appreciative of that. It's definitely here. Like this is sort of the last stretch before like camp starts next week. Yep. I actually think camp starts this week for Iowa State and Kansas State because they're playing in that week 0 game. So like it's basically here.
It's here.
Yeah. So we're fired up about that and can't wait to bring you some more stuff from Vegas.
So we'll catch you guys more from Vegas. Thanks, as always, to our producer, Mike Yurstowski, for making us look good and sound good, making all these graphics for us to spread the word about the KOTN poll. We will see you guys very, very soon. For now, he's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was Kings of the North.